You made a massive leap, moving to the East Coast, leaving a comfortable niche technical role, and essentially starting over from scratch to support your fam. What was the lowest point during that transition, and what kept you from giving up on your career goals?
I was at one point I was working at a restaurant, which, shout out to that restaurant. It was a cool restaurant, but doing this on the side is not sustainable at all.
And what advice do you have for parents who feel stuck in survival mode but want to transition into a new career?
What does the ideal position look like for our dynamic, right? Because it's not just all about the money, right? A lot of times people see that the dollar amount, yeah, that's it for me. And then you don't weigh in, how much time is going to be expected of you. You don't weigh in work-life balance. You don't weigh in all those other things that make a job great.
When the recruiters reach out to you, what are the ranges typically looking like?
Okay, so yeah, the ranges when recruiters reach out typically are within the
Welcome back to the Textual Talk Podcast. Well, I'm your host, HD, and today we have none other than Mr. Jordan Hall joining the show today. And he's going to tell us about his background and how he's found himself working in Linux. But without further ado, Jordan, how about you just give the audience a little bit of background on yourself?
Yeah, my name is Jordan Hall, originally from Flint, Michigan. I'm from a family of musicians, but I've always loved tinkering and figuring out stuff with tech. So I currently work as a technical support engineer, and I also assist with instruction in teaching Linux as well.
Cool. So when you say you come from a family of musicians, like what instruments did they play?
Yeah, so my dad, he was kind of like a Kirk Franklin type. He would be on the keyboard and create his own choir tracks, and he would like tour a little bit and all that stuff. So watching him create music, I just grew the love for it as well. Got a couple of family members that like play guitar and other things like that, but I mainly learned from him and just kind of had a love for just the performing and also just like producing as well. I learned producing from him, watching him do his thing. So
Okay. So I believe you're from Flint and St. Louis. Which one are you more for were raised in the longest? Was it Flint?
so I would say probably I spent a majority of like the full formative years, so like up in high school, college, all the way up until probably 2018 is going to be St. Louis. So I moved to
Okay.
St. Louis around my high school years, and then from there on, I went to college and met my wife in college, and we got married. And her family is all in Springfield, Massachusetts. So when we had our son, we were like, well, no, we want a village, to help raise our child. So we we moved to Springfield, Massachusetts in 2018, and kind of just like started all over from there. But we knew that we really wanted that family environment as far as raising our kid goes.
Okay. No biggie. How do you like that St. Louis style barbecue?
I miss it. Definitely miss it. Yeah. I mean, East Coast is cool too, but they're more known for like, their seafood, like their lobster rolls. I just had a lobster roll this weekend. It was fantastic. But yeah, St. Louis barbecue is crazy. Huh?
I don't think I ever had one.
Oh yeah. Like you come to the East Coast. Oh, I don't know if you in the East Coast right now?
Nah, I'm Central Time. The only place, like only parts I've been on the East Coast is Connecticut, and then a brief stint in New York, like on a work trip. But other than that, I didn't really have an extensive time to where I'm actually going through and trying the actual cuisines on the East Coast that each state is known for.
Yeah, yeah. So if you come out here and you're chilling, I would suggest going out to Cape Cod for a few days and getting a lobster roll, because that'll change your life right there.
Yeah. All right. Let's have some fun. So you made a massive leap, moving to the East Coast, leaving a comfortable niche technical role, and essentially starting over from scratch to support your fam. I don't like how they worded this, but let's see what it says. What was the lowest point during that transition, and what kept you from giving up on your career goals?
So I guess I'd say the initial catalyst was at some point, like when you were just working the side jobs, and like I was at one point I was working at a restaurant, which, shout out to that restaurant. It was a cool restaurant. But, at some point you're just like, man, like this is not, doing this on the side is not sustainable at all. So, kind of looking at where I wanted to be, or at least what I knew that I could really dive into based off what my own interests already were. Um, I was thinking, okay, maybe I should kind of build a full on technical career, like full on IT career. And so eventually, from that point, I'm like, okay, I had a conversation with my wife, like, hey, like, I think I should make this transition for real. And at that same time, you know how the algorithm be like, you be talking about something and then it pops up in an advertisement and
Yep.
Instagram and stuff like that. On Instagram, I came across Simone B's talking about GovTech and like what her personal journey was, and then different programs that she recommends for people of varying backgrounds, right? And so she brought up Yellowtail Tech, and I had never heard of it before, but I was like, let me just take a look and do some research and see if that's worth the investment. And then from there, I was looking for different testimonials, people that went through the program, what that program is like, because a lot of different like boot camps and things like that. Like they'll tell you one thing up front, and then it's kind of like, all right, there you go, you know what I mean, and you kind of looking around like, okay, well, what now? What do I do? So when I was looking into it, Yellowtail Tech was a lot different as far as like they wanted to actually follow you through the entire process of learning what you needed to learn and then moving into, okay, this is how you actually approach going into the job market. So I saw that and I'm like, okay, I feel like this is worth the investment. And so after again having another conversation with my wife, I said, okay, I feel like this is going to be a good turning point for us. We just kind of pulled trigger and went for it. So
Nice, nice. I'm glad. And let's say for the people who may be just like you right now, far as married but not doing a job they like the most, how important is it to have a supportive spouse?
I feel like that's everything. And that's not even just tech. That's just in general, So obviously you got to have the conversation of, okay, these are the things that I aspire to do, but then also have that conversation, okay, what is what's practically possible based off all of our different responsibilities. You got to have to weigh those options out, and see what's worth the investment and what's not. um and so based off of our conversation, because we weighed out all the different pros and cons of me actually taking that leap. We just found that the pros outweighed the cons as far as the life that we wanted to live. Um, and that made all the difference. And if I didn't have that conversation or multiple conversations with my wife, I don't think I would have even felt fully confident to move forward. Knowing that there could be some type of drawback or anything like that, I wouldn't have been able to process that correctly, like mentally, without having a conversation with my spouse. So I think that's everything.
Yeah, for sure. Especially, let's be honest, there was a major investment there into your career, right?
Mhm.
I think that's the biggest thing a lot of people are always concerned with. And I'm just going to be honest here. Over the last 6 years, I've seen a lot of programs come and go. They have made a lot of lofty promises.
Mhm.
And then the thing is, the curriculum didn't match up. It would be like super fast, or I've seen people overcharge just for them to say, hey, you're going to get 4 certifications, for like $7,000. I'm like, you can go study on your own and get that. That like anybody can go past the certs.
Yep.
That's outrageous. And so what starts happening, and I'm only going to speak into our community because I don't know how the discussions are amongst others. But in our community, every time one of us either has a program or something, it's immediately too good to be true, or
Mhm.
it's too expensive, or it's a scam. But
Yep. What's the catch?
right. But a lot of people don't understand that's on the outside looking in that may not even be in the field. It's like, hey, there are like in my lane in security, this thing called SANS, and SANS is super expensive. Nobody comes out and says SANS is a scam because it's like super expensive.
Mhm.
Most of the time, I'm not going to say for every time, but most of the time, if something costs a significant investment, the person running it put in a significant amount of time to try to guarantee your success with the program. And you can tell by that. And I could, like, I've talked to Justin, I'm talking to you, I've talked to Juby, and how he's pretty much been very specific on, hey, like, hey, we don't want everybody. We are trying to
Mhm.
find specific people that want to come put the work in and be successful. And so when you put it like that,
Yep.
it's a little bit better for people to understand, like, hey, we're not saying this for everybody. It's hard, it's not
Yep.
easy, and it's going to be a lot of sweat equity put in here. But if this is what you want to do, if you listen to us, you will be successful.
Yeah. Like it's a clear path, but it's not an easy path. Like you have to really, and that's the thing. Like when people get into the program, there's like a good like couple week period where you see people who get in, and then they're like, okay, I don't actually feel like I want to do this, and then they leave, right? And that's totally acceptable because you actually are being honest with yourself. You're not going in like maybe 3 months into it, and then you're like, I don't want to do this. Now you already, you know what I'm saying? You've put in so much of an investment, so much time and money. And now you're coming to a point where if you're not honest with yourself up front, then you're going to be committing all your time and energy into the wrong place. So it's definitely not a path for everyone, but that's why it's important to really be honest with yourself as you're going through it. It's like to say, okay, can I actually see myself picking this up and being consistent with it? Because that's the main thing. I tell students all the time, this is not something that you could just come in here and just kind of like randomly just willy-nilly do. Like you got to be on the terminal like every day. I tell them TTT, touch that terminal every day,
Hmm.
because if you don't, you're gonna find yourself coming back 2-3 weeks later, and the stuff that you just learned is foreign to you again. So that level of consistency is required when it comes to like really really learning something that's like a new language, like Linux. Like it's like learning a brand new language. So it's, you have to be able to understand, okay, this is a full commitment that you are settling to really learn. And if it's not for you, better that you be honest with yourself in the beginning, than try and kind of put half energy into it. So
No, I definitely agree with that. Simply stating, like you said, a lot of people, I tell people all the time, hey, you really don't know what you want to do until you actually look at it. Like everybody thinks they want to do everything. They see all the cool parts on social media, but they don't see
yeah,
the work behind it. And a lot of
yep,
people don't understand, like, hey, once you make the pivot to want to be in a technical role or be in a tech industry, what do you want to do? Your switch has to flip because you can never get too comfortable because it's always changing.
yeah,
Unless you work in the government, and even now in the government space, they're trying to get to the point where they're not so behind the private sector. Because see, that's what happened. A lot of people got some of those cushy government jobs and stuff rarely changed. So it was easy for 10, 15 years. But now, as you see things changing and adoption of AI, and you have the government coming through and cutting budgets, and they getting rid of all this different, they're shaking everything up. So everyone should just be on notice and like, hey, if it's something you don't know, go out there. You got the time to learn it now versus getting laid off or cut off, and now it's
yeah. And that's one thing that you kind of naturally learn, or at least that I personally naturally learned going through the process, is how to be like a continual learner. Because you know going through the program and learning all the essentials of Linux, and just building on everything, navigating file management, permission storage, right? You get through all those essentials of just how Linux is in general. And then now after that, now you actually have to learn different tools that are being used in enterprises. So then what I'm saying, you learn those things. So it's like a continual, you're never done learning, right? In IT or just tech in general, you're never done learning. Like you can never get to a point where you're just like, this is all the stuff I need to know. No, like, yes, tech is inorganic, but it's organic in the sense that humans are behind it, and we're always trying to strive for new things, you know what I'm saying, to make things better. So you can't stay static because the tech field is not static. So yeah, you have to be a continual learner. Like even now, as I have the position that I have now, I'm learning more about, you know, the actual tools that the company's using. So you're constantly getting new information. Like it never stops.
No, for sure. And so here is one I had to ask you, and I thought it was pretty more specific. But it's saying, what advice do you have for parents who feel stuck in survival mode but want to transition into a new career?
Yeah, so that's a big one, right? So for me personally, my child has special needs. So like our approach and tactics to a lot of things are very different. Like they take a
Hmm.
lot of intentionality. So we had to consider a lot of like game plans making this change, right?
Yeah.
Most importantly, after going through the program, what does the ideal position look like for our dynamic, right? Because it's not just all about the money, right? A lot of times people see that the dollar amount, and you're like, yeah, that's it for me, and then you don't weigh in, you know, how much time is going to be expected of you. You don't weigh in, you know what I'm saying, work life balance. You don't weigh in all those other things that make a job great. And so those were things that I was constantly assessing as I was in the job market. Is okay, that's a good position, but okay, it's having me move to a place where I don't have, we wouldn't have any support, right, with our child. That's kind of a no-go, right? So there were positions where I probably could have picked it up a lot quicker, but it just wasn't conducive to our family dynamic. And you have to assess that, you know what I'm saying, as you go. um you know, when it comes, and every family dynamic is different, right? You know, you and your partner know, or you as an individual know what's going to be the best thing for your family. But you just have to keep that into perspective when you start seeing the commas and you start seeing the dollar amounts, right? You got to factor in all the things that are going to make this work for you and your family, you and your kid, you and your spouse, right? So
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, we have three, and I've been remote really since the pandemic. And so it is very beneficial that, well, there were times where at other roles previous to this where I was in the office, but it was still flexible. I've always had a role where I can say, hey, I need to go to the doctor or I need to go pick my child up or this or that. And I think
yep.
flexibility is a big one. It's one of the reasons why I advocate for like single moms to get in a more technical role that's on salary, that's not connected to a phone where they're monitoring, hey, what are you doing? You got to be on this call, all those metrics things. I advocate for that because I already know how stressful that is on you, especially if you're in a place where you don't have help. So I feel you a bit too, because out here, like my parents, they're back home in Louisiana, and like I have a really big family, so I would definitely have a lot of help if I was back home too. I could call anybody, and say, "Hey, what?" My family love to watch kids, so if I say, "Hey, you want to watch the girls? You want to watch my son?" They'll, say yes in a minute. And so out here, that is not the option right now, and everybody's still. Well, my son is the youngest; he'll be 2 tomorrow, but the other girls, they're getting older, but they still have their needs and their issues, and like you said, it's just one of those things, and that's why I think why it's beneficial. And I like that you also talked about not just the money, because when I'm interviewing for roles, I'm always asking about benefits. I'm
Mhm.
always asking about, hey, how much the insurance costs? What other type of
Yep.
perks do you have? Because you know, insurance is a lot. I spend a lot on insurance,
Me
a
too.
lot, and you're like, man. So when you find there are companies out there that like Costco, for example. Just for a single person, $20 bi-weekly, and I think if you add your family on, it's like an extra $20.
Oh, I didn't know about that.
Yeah, you get this. The people who work in the store get the same benefits you'll get working on corporate side.
That's what's
So I was
up.
like, yeah, that's pretty amazing. But yeah, parents, if you have been struggling, you still have time to get into a role like this, just because of the flexibility it gives you and potential, like what things you could do, like for your family or needs or whatever. Like, I got kids. My daughter got to get some glasses that's mad expensive. So I can imagine if I was in a regular job or with a regular skill set, I wouldn't be able to pay for them.
Yeah.
So it's definitely that. Those are reasons. I think though that's also the reason why I like to work with people with families, because they'll come to me and they'll say, "Yeah, I'm ready to do this. I got a family. I got to do this and that," and they get to it.
Yep.
That's kind of like some of the ideal people sometimes in the program. Like, you got people depending on you. You got time to play.
Exactly.
So I know you briefly touched on doing Yellowtail. Let's talk about a little bit more on, I guess, Yellowtail, your experience. Um, how did you feel even going through the program? Like, your real honest opinion and thoughts on everything.
Yeah. Yeah. So I really like I really love, and I didn't even know this until I went through the program, but like going through a cohort style of learning, I'm like, I feel like that is like, I wouldn't say that that's ideal for every single person, because some people, they can just grind on their own and pick up whatever they need to learn, and they're just like beasts like that. But when it comes to like being in a group of like-minded people, who are striving for the same thing, right? Going through a particular set of tasks, learning a particular set of skills, that group environment is like, it's almost like a cheat code, like, because the way that you learn something and the way that somebody else is learning that exact same thing is different, right? You have different point of view. So when you guys come together and you're working on something, or you're practicing something, or it's a collaborative effort, you're going to see things that they might miss. They're going to see things that you might miss. And so that's how you really, like people say, iron sharpens iron and stuff like that. That's real when it comes to like learning. And so the cohort style that Yellowtail Tech employs, it really helps you have a solid foundation of what it is that you're learning. A lot of times, and just this is on the, not just for me going through the cohort, but just me on the instructor side as well. Um, the people who really, really end up getting it are the people who, this is what I like to say. I say they oversaturate their presence. So they show up for everything, even the optional things. Like, they show up. They'll if there's like a opportunity to do a little group session, group study session, they're there, right? The people who are there even when they don't have to be, they're going to have that stuff down pat. And the people who ask questions, no matter how silly it sounds in their head, those two people are the people who succeed the most, at least in the environment that I was in the environments that I teach. Um, and so being a part of that on both ends of it, as a student and as an instructor, like, it just, I don't know. There's something that you get from that, that it's it's not just about, the tangible. It's an intangible value that you get from those experiences. So shout out to my old cohort, Ansible 2 cohort. Hope everybody's living their life to their fullest. They're enjoying all the fruits of their spoils of their fruits of their spoils. And shout out to all the different cohorts that I was a part of their learning journey as well. um the process is it's very straightforward. Like, the curriculum is very straightforward. It's not easy. Some things about, oh yeah, I got this, and then the next module, you're like, oh, I don't get this, right? So some points you might ask more questions than others. But the instructors are great. Like, my instructor, that's my MVP, man. That's my goat. But everybody has different teaching styles, and they connect to different people differently. You know what I mean? Like, just based off their own personality. Yeah, for me personally, it's a fantastic experience. Um, once you learn Linux, and then you get into the cert prep mode, because the main milestone for you is the RHCSA, right? Before you start going into apprenticeship, before you start getting into mock interviews and any other certs you might be pursuing after the RHCSA, that's the main goal. So uh, that's like going from learning Linux into cert prep mode it kicks up a whole nother notch. Like you start to understand the level of repetition that you need to have things solid. And the process is very proven. Like I've seen success after success after success when it comes to taking those exams, because those aren't easy exams. Those aren't like you can. It's not like multiple choice, right? You can't just BS your way through it. You got to know how to do those things. All those objectives. If you don't know how to do it, you're just not gonna pass. So the way that they get you to drill it, the repetition, getting those reps in, that skill of like honing it over and over and over again till it's solid. Like you take that on with you when you go on to do other things as well. So that whole process was great for me. And then shout out to the career team. Like after, you go through all the learning as far as getting your RHCSA, and you're going into your apprenticeship, and you're doing all the different advanced things that you need to learn, and the tools that you get to work with as far as in a system admin environment. The career team, they really, really go into the weeds with you, like working on not just the technical stuff, but your soft skills too, right? There's a bunch of people that know a bunch of stuff in tech, but they don't know how to articulate how they contribute to like the culture of the company that they're working for, like how they can actually communicate and collaborate with different teams, like how you handle high stress situations, like all those different like soft skills. Those are just as important. And Yellowtail Tech makes sure that you have that balance, especially when you go through those mock interviews. You go through going through the technical side, they rake you over the coals with the technical stuff, but they also rake you over the coals to make sure that you understand how to convey your soft skills as well, which is just as important when you're in an interview. So yeah, I mean, all in all, it's been a great experience for me. The job search is the job search. It's just like the market, it can be daunting as far as like the amount of times you might get rejections. You go through the process of getting all the way up to an interview, and then the interview don't even happen. Stuff like that. I've had that happen multiple times. Sorry, I'm just kind of like rambling at this point, but that whole process,
get it out.
yeah, that process, that part of it was the most frustrating thing. But that's not really about the program itself. That is a reflection of the job market, and how things are just constantly rapidly changing. And I think it's weird. I was thinking about this earlier. It's like a lot of these companies, they're using AI to filter out the large amounts of applications that they have. And then in turn, prospective applicants, they're using AI to try and fine tune what they present to be like the perfect candidate. So like both, like it's like both parties are kind of like eliminating the human interaction element. So nobody's really getting a clear idea of who anybody is. And that can be a frustrating element to the job search. And I think that just constantly working on your skills, like networking, I think networking is a huge thing. Like that's really how I ended up getting to the point where I got the opportunity that I did, was just networking people. I had an impression on enough people to where eventually somebody remembered, okay, I got this opportunity. Let me hit this person up. And so that got me my foot in the door to have the interview. And then from there, I had to kind of lock in and just use everything that was every element of my preparation to kind of showcase that I would be a good fit for that team. So the networking is huge when it comes to everybody's trying to mass apply and everybody's trying to filter down. Like it's a lot of it's a lot of non-human interaction in this job hunt process on both ends. So you just have to find ways to get in touch with humans. I'm personally a proponent of getting connected with the right staffing company. Like the right recruiters can help you really get your foot in the door. But there's a lot of like, gotta be careful because there's a lot of BSers as well. But getting connected with staffing companies that have rapport with these companies, because a lot of them they have specific staffing companies that they trust and they have rapport with, that they know they're going to get good candidates from. So being connected with those right staffing companies can really help get a human interaction to kind of vouch for you and vouch for your resume, to get your foot in the door to actually have an interview. So yeah, that was like a turning point specifically in my job search. But all in all, Yellowtail Tech, it really paid off. Like, you just have to keep putting in the work, trust in the process, and it played out eventually for me. So
Yeah, you said a lot, bro. You said a lot,
no, I know
especially.
that's one thing. Like, and that's when I'm,
No,
especially
not
when
a bad thing.
yeah,
Not a
because
bad thing.
when I'm teaching too, I'll be rambling too. I'm like, y'all need to stop me, because I'll be rambling. So they're like, no,
Yeah,
keep going. So
nah, especially I really fixated on when you said the people struggle to talk about like what they know and how to display it. That's something I see with clients often, to where I'm just listening to them talk, because a lot of times I've noticed that they'll think they did one way in the interview, and then if we go back and listen to it, I perceive what they did a whole different way. And so, like you said, it's one of those things. So you mentioned some of those coveted certifications. So collecting certifications like the RHCSA and the RHCE and Sec Plus is no joke, especially the RHCE, which is notoriously hands-on and practical. Was there a specific concept or lab that completely broke your brain at first, and how did you break through that wall?
I would say, when it comes to the RC, I think the biggest thing, it wasn't like a particular type of objective, like a particular playbook that I had to learn how to do. But it was mainly making sure that, like, it's like those little elements that make the playbook efficient, like when conditions, like that was like a huge thing, like understanding how to like properly set that up. I had to like kind of hit my head against the wall, um making sure that the syntax on that was good, because I found like it those are like my personal like hiccups as far as like syntax goes, and like typos are going. I was like, I'm not getting this right. Um, Even maybe like the Jinja 2, like the for loops, took me a minute to like get that really like down, and like repeat that enough times. Um, it's all repetition, because it's all like you're just creating, you're scripting, you're making YAML playbooks that entire time, and it's notoriously like anal, as far as like one little thing is going to make that whole thing fail. So um it's really like with learning just the essentials, like you repeat those playbooks over and over and over again, until you know yourself and you know exactly where you would be messing up at, because you're going to mess up on the RSE. Like you're gonna come across some red somewhere. At least that's what I personally think. And if you've done it enough, you know yourself enough to check for the things that you typically miss, right? And that's going to save you a lot of time. If you haven't done it enough, you're not going to know, okay, this is where I typically am missing something. So let me check there first, right? So that, I feel like that saves a lot of time. That 4 hours goes by so fast. You think that's a lot of time, but it's really not, because it's the details, right? It's those little things. Like, a lot of times you can understand it conceptually. Like, you might know, right, what modules to be using, stuff like that. But it's those little details of the syntax of little things that's really going to have you stuck if you have not repeated it. So I would say it's really just the repetition, those little things, the typos, the syntax. Um, Repeating it is going to help you understand where you're going to fall short at, and where you can correct it fast.
I like that, the little things.
Mhm.
There's a off subject, but there's a movie with Denzel Washington, and I forget the other guy name. He's a detective, and it's called The Little Things, and they're trying to find a murderer.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
man.
yeah, it's kind of
Denzel,
like a.
the other guy, the goat cat. He got the goat catalog.
It's like a. To be honest, the movie is like this. It's not one. It's not one of the ones that people say you gotta see it. and
Mhm.
it's decent. It's not bad. I've never seen a bad Denzel movie,
Right.
but
No, I'm gonna check
it's
it out. I don't think I've seen that one.
yeah. I think it came out like 2018, 17 ish around that time frame. But nah, man, I'm glad you said that too, because what I also noticed is people will go do a project one time, throw it on their resume. Then when you ask them about said project, they can't remember. And the other part about this is that I try to tell people about is don't just try to complete what you're doing. Understand the why behind it, because it'll help you explain it better.
Yeah.
If you just are good at following the instructions and getting it to work, but don't understand the why, then you probably won't be able to explain why you did something. And it'll make it seem like you don't know what you did because you just followed directions.
Especially if you're using any type of LLM to assist you in that project. If you're gonna do that, right? If you're gonna prompt to get assistance in whatever project that you're doing, make sure that on them steps you're saying, okay, if it's a step that you don't understand, like if ChatGPT or Claude or whatever, if they gave you a step to follow and you don't understand what that step is doing, you can just act like you can either look it up yourself or ask, okay, break this step down. What am I doing? What is the syntax here? Like sometimes they say explain it like I'm five, right? You want to make sure that you understand in each step that you're doing, because if you're not, you're just kind of just regurgitating stuff, and it's not going to be something that you can actually apply on the job, let alone like you actually getting the job. But when you get on the job, you're not gonna be able to apply any of that stuff because you were just kind of repeating it.
Okay, this is a cool one. So now that you are a TA with Yellowtail Tech, did helping others master the material finally make you feel like an expert, or did you still feel like you had so much more to learn?
Both. It's both for sure. Like, um, because every cohort, like students be teaching me stuff, right? They be coming up with different ways to do things. I'm like, I never thought about doing it like that, right? But um being able to repeat those things, like the things that you remember, like back when you were like learning it yourself and you had to like go back to your notes, or like, you know what I'm saying, like do it slowly. You being able to speak it out and actually explain what it is, what the process is to somebody else, it's a great feeling because it every time you speak it out loud, it solidifies that knowledge for you internally as well. And I tell students to do that to each other as well. Like either you explain it with one another, or even like you just explaining it to like anybody that'll listen to you. I had a student that they would like talk to they would just tell the steps out loud to their dog can't understand nothing, but them speaking it out loud gave them more confidence in what it is that they were actively understanding, right? And just made it feel more solid, that they were able to explain each step, explain what it is, why it's doing what it does. So yes, like I mean, I love instructing. I love being a part of the learning process. I'm a visual learner, so like I try to use as many analogies as I can, like to paint a picture, because a lot of the concepts, if you don't try and find a way to make it relatable in your head, like it's just gonna feel obscure, right? And it's gonna be a lot harder to understand the process.
Mhm.
So like with LVM, like that's like a big thing that almost every cohort, if we're not given like some type of visual representation of what's happening when you're partitioning, when you're doing the PV create and VG create, LV create, when you're not given a visual of what it is that's happening, because it's foreign until you start doing it. When you don't give an analogy, a lot of times it's hard to like really grasp what these steps are doing. So yeah, it's a great feeling to be able to actually like teach these things when I didn't get them myself not too long ago.
Cool. All right, so check this out. A lot of people hit a wall after that first certification and stop. What was the catalyst that kept you pushing to collect the RHCE and Security Plus right after?
Yeah. So I think a couple of things. I think understanding, like when I would go and look at just different job descriptions on what it is that companies actively were looking for, a lot of them would bring up Ansible, right? And so I knew that if I wanted to be as much of an asset as possible, I knew I was going to have to learn Ansible at some point, because all companies want to automate as much as possible.
Mm-hmm.
So the necessity for understanding that thing that the exam covers, I knew that was going to be necessary regardless. I knew that going through the exam is going to be the best way to not only understand it, but demonstrate some level of understanding. So the necessity, right? Security Plus, right? With GovTech, that's like understanding security concepts and principles helps you understand the language of what's happening, in cybersecurity. It might not make you a cybersecurity expert. Security Plus does not do that, but you understand the language of what's happening, and they want you to have that at least as a baseline. So that I feel like that was necessary as well. And then on top of that, understanding like, okay, this might seem more difficult. This next one might seem more difficult, but I remember in my previous milestone, I always tell my students to remember your milestones, because it helps you challenge the next arena, right? So remembering where you were at the beginning when you barely knew anything, and now you have your RHCSA. That was something that you probably didn't conceptualize you being able to do a long time ago, but now you did it. So now you're looking at this next challenge, you're able to just make that next step in the same way you made the first step. So remembering your previous milestones helps you understand that the next challenge is possible. The next challenge is doable. So that's kind of what helped me kind of rally and kind of lock in to tackle on the next certification that I felt was necessary for my career.
Okay. Cool. Now, what was your actual interview process like for someone coming from a non-traditional background? How did you sell your transferable skills as an asset to the hiring team?
Yeah, so like I said, one thing that I really kind of took and remembered when I was doing the mock interviews, is one thing that they highlighted for me as far as one of my strengths were, is being able to convey my soft skills, right? And being able to like bring out previous experiences, like not even like the non-technical ones, like anything in your history, in your work, in your professional history that can speak to um your soft skills. It kind of get paints a picture of who you are holistically, right? And that gives them an idea of if you're going to be a cultural fit, not just, okay, does this person know the stuff or not know the stuff? Because some companies are willing to invest in you being able to learn specific things, right, on the job, being able to pick certain things up on the job. But there are certain things that you really can't teach. Like you just have to have an aptitude to knowing how to navigate, right? And as far as soft skills go, so knowing that that was one of my strengths, um, I made sure that that was like very refined. That I was able to like be as relatable as possible to what they already had established, to um, be able to actually like speak to what I know, but really only to what I know. Because a lot of times you get nervous. You get so nervous about being that perfect candidate that you try to like jump the gun and like speak to stuff that's not really inside of your wheelhouse. And if they ask you further about that thing, you don't have any extra things to speak about, right? Because you're speaking outside of what it is that you know. So like staying within that pocket, or where it is that you really shine in your experience, I think that helps a lot. And showing, I think for me personally, showing that desire to continuously learn. Like, so with my history of going into the next certs, right, and moving on to the next thing, it shows that you never stop learning, right? You're always growing, you're always willing to grow and understand what it is that you need to do next. That's also I think a valuable asset. in the interview phase. And that's what I definitely leaned on, as far as what my strengths were. My love for instructing shows my love for learning. And that was a big part of the culture of the team that I work with. So, um, you know, just forsaking not forsaking the soft skills as well as the technical knowledge, right? You know what? You got to lock in with the stuff in the technical interview, right? They're gonna ask you how to do certain things, right? What would you do in certain scenarios? But like I was mentioning before, um, melding the two together, your soft skills, like how you interact with teams, how you handle things under pressure, right? How you prioritize time, those are going to be things that they value just as much as you knowing a specific tool. So those are things that really helped me, I think, show that I would be a good asset to the team that I work for.
No, great answer. Great answer. Now, can you tell us? I know you work a technical support role regarding Linux. Can you explain to us a little bit about like what your job entails?
Yeah. So my job entails, um, like whenever different enterprises use the software that our company provides, we have to be able to be like that first line of defense when it comes to, in a general sense, being able to consult the different documentation, to go through the logs and the data that they provide to us, as far as what it is that they're experiencing. If it's a specific configuration issue, if it's a bug, we go through those things and consult the different documentation, work with different expert teams to kind of triage the problem, find what it is that needs to be fixed, give the customer a timeline of, this is what you expect, this is the steps that you need to follow. And we're in constant communication, right? We're in communication with the customer, we're in communication with different expert teams, and we're researching ourselves, all to find a quick and efficient answer to what problems they might be having with the software that we provide for them. Um, so yeah, it's a lot of reading, a lot of reading documentation. It's a lot of communication, right? So being able to work with your team, work with other teams to come up with solutions. And it's sometimes you have, and it's with all companies. Sometimes you have smaller clients. Sometimes you have bigger clients, right? So you have to be able to prioritize your time because you're dealing with multiple cases at the same time. So yeah, it's a lot of research, a lot of collaboration, and really communicating to the customer that you're going to be able to fix what it is that they need to have fixed.
Perfect. Awesome. And so, how long, in your estimation, were there growing pains in this new role, or did you feel like you picked it up fairly quickly?
So I would say yes, in the sense that at the time that I came into or got the joint into the team, they were going through a lot of changes already. Like there was a big migration of specific tools that they were using. So a lot of the learning process that would have normally been the case was being massively overhauled, right? So um, being able having to like go from one set of instructions as far as how to do things into a totally new set of instructions on how to do things was a little bit of a challenge in certain aspects. But one thing is, my team is great. They prioritize. Everybody prioritizes helping one another. So I never felt like I was just kind of out there on my own trying to struggle figuring things out. It's a great work culture. So even in the midst of a lot of the rapid changes that were happening, like, you can actually just reach out, via Slack and really get those answers. Ask as many questions as you need to. So that's something that I really like because that's the environment that I'm already in with Yellowtail. I always tell my students, hey, ask all the questions. So now they're telling me, ask all the questions. So it really helped me a lot, in the transition. So
That's funny. I was looking at these questions and it said that Linux is famous for a phrase RTFM, and when a client brings you a problem that isn't in any manual or certification guide, what is your personal framework or methodology for troubleshooting the unknown?
See, so when it comes to, and this, I mean, this happens, right? So, when it comes to troubleshooting things that like you just can't find any documentation for, it might be something that's brand new. That's where really like I'm talking to everybody. I'm reaching out to everybody that I think would be a relevant expert in whatever it is that I'm looking at. I'm reaching out to them, right? I'm elevating to somebody who has way more experience than I do, to try and get a new set of eyes, a fresh set of eyes on it. If it's a bug, okay, so now we have to treat this as a bug, and now they have to actually work on that bug, and now I have to like bring in the information on any updates we get with trying to get that bug fixed. So it's all about really like talking and getting another set of eyes on things, because not a lot, most of the time you just looking at it, it's going to go way slower than having multiple eyes on it. So that's typically what I've been doing, until I'm getting to the point where I'm just like, I'm that guy in this particular thing, and people defer to me for specific expertise on something. I'm deferring to as many other experts above me as possible, because the most important thing is to make sure that the client gets the service that they need, right, to get everything up and running. Because time is money, and sometimes time is big money. So you just have to really prioritize getting that thing fixed as soon as possible. And the more hands on deck, the better.
Great answer. Great answer. So now, what's a common mistake you see aspiring Linux admins making when they try to break into the industry?
A common mistake. I mean, like I feel like I've said it before, but like, I mean, you said it earlier. It's like, okay, you feel good because you like did something that one time, right? And then you just move on to the next thing, and that's it. It really don't work like that, especially when you're just learning new stuff. Like it has to be something that you've done multiple times. Because the moment you step back and look back at it again, it's like, yeah, you did it, but do you remember how you did it? I don't think you do. Oh, documentation, right? Like really like I screenshot everything. Like documenting your steps, not having a proper path of how you did that thing and that you can refer to, it'll have you looking as lost as when you barely did anything the first time. So like I screenshot every step, me personally, right? And I put that in my notes. That way if somebody else needs to come and like work on, what I'm working on, they know exactly the steps that I followed. Um, and that's something that, I hope that either by example or just telling my students, hey, screenshot everything. I hope they still doing it, because it's so important. I think it's very important. Just have that documentation trail like on point as much as you can.
I'm
Oh,
muted.
okay.
Dope. Dope. Now, man, before we get out of here, what would be three things you would want to leave the listeners or the watchers with?
I would say this is something that I say this path, right? Is something that anybody can do. Not everybody should do, but anybody can do it, right? If this is something that you really want to pursue, the path is there, right? Not everybody's path looks the same. So like if you see somebody's success and they say like, they only had to like apply to maybe like 50 jobs and they finally got that break. Don't think that you're not able to actually get your opportunity just because you're a lot further on in the process and you haven't gotten to your opportunity yet. It's just everybody's path is different. Like um the level of connections that people make, all the different types of specific right place, right time, like all of those things play a factor. Like so don't get discouraged when you see somebody else who, they got their position. Like if they're a part of your like as far as your journey, they've gone through something similar, that should be encouraging to you that that your time is coming as well, right? um That's one thing. I would say, and I'm a harp on it just because it's just so important. Um, is you never stop learning, right? Like this is not something that you just, here's what it is. Like here's my bullet points of things that I know. No, like you're gonna learn. There's gonna be new things that you have to learn. There's new tools. There's new methods. There's new procedures. All all of tech feels organic, even though it's not, right? Like you just have to keep moving with it. And then when it comes to Linux, like I tell my students, TTT, touch that terminal, because if you don't, it's gonna just go in one ear or out the other, right? It's gonna look clear one day, it's gonna look foreign the next day. So just be consistent as far as like practicing, right? Do some labs, work on some things, get with people, like-minded people, right? Collaborate on some things. Collaboration is huge because you do that on the job. So might as well start now, right? If you're in the job market, work with some people on some things, right? Not just you do it individually. Um, but yeah, your time is coming, you know?
Perfect. And I forgot to ask you this because the conversation was getting so good. What's the, I know we mentioned the commas in that part of the journey. What's that been like for you since you've gotten to this industry? And now you don't have to tell us, what you make. A clever way that I asked this in the other episode with Justin was like, when the recruiters reach out to you, what are the ranges typically looking like?
Okay. So yeah, the ranges when recruiters reach out typically are within I say anywhere from, and this is just to start out, like it can go higher, but it can typically range from like 50 to 60 an hour, right?
Hmm.
Which is for me personally,
Yeah.
that was that was as an upgrade, right? So it was that I feel like that combined with the flexibility, right? The benefits, all the things that you factor in, I feel like that can be life changing, especially for a lot of people. So um it definitely has changed, it's changed my life and changed my family's life. It's like sometimes you're like, okay, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do with this all this stuff now. Like I'm used to like worrying about certain things I don't got to worry about, so what I mean, it's a great
Yeah.
feeling for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. Especially like as it starts increasing, like what do I do? And at some points you start getting paid so much, you don't even know if you should be asking for the amount you asking for.
Right. Right.
You start feeling like, I don't know, is this too much? And then you gotta realize, no, this is what I'm worth. This is what I want to ask
Yep.
for. So,
Absolutely.
and that could be his own episode just on that, because a lot of people are sometimes get nervous and they don't know what they should ask for. But now, Jordan, man, I really appreciate you giving your perspective on I really expect I really appreciate you giving your perspective on transitioning into the Linux field, and I could tell the growth that you've got not only in your job and from teaching, but just overall with your personal life. With I think this whole transition has helped you become. So I appreciate that. I appreciate you gracing the listeners with your presence and perspective. And if they want to connect with you, how do they get in contact with you?
Yeah, you can reach out to me on LinkedIn specifically. So, Jordan Hall Tech IT. That's gonna be my page. So you can reach out to me, message me about different parts of whatever it is that is part of your journey. We can talk about it. We chop it up. So yeah, thank you for
Uh,
having me on your platform.
Anytime. And I'll make sure I'll have all this information in the description, guys. But if you enjoyed this episode, let us know in the comments below. If you want Justin to come back on, let us know. But until next time, let's stay textual and we out. Peace.
Peace.